Good morning. Welcome to United States Sports Academy Sports Talk. I'm Dr. Brett Semmelmacher. On my far left, your right, would be Mr. Ben Billman. And we're fortunate enough today to have a very good friend of mine in Mr. Joe Gottfried, former athletic director at the University of South Alabama. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming over here. A little background on. Yeah, we're going to have, if you have questions, go ahead and type those in, and we have Sarah over there behind the computer, and she'll let us know what questions you might have. A little background on Joe. He's from Crestline, Ohio. His brother is Mike Gottfried, former ESPN commentator, and he has a younger brother, Johnny, which unfortunately passed away a few years back. He's got a son, Mark, that's the head basketball coach at North Carolina State, and a daughter, Christy, which is a guidance counselor at St. Paul. Coached basketball in Ohio for 8 years, I believe it was. A few at Bloomfield High School and Lima Central Catholic. And then he went from there to Ashland University, which back then it was Ashland College.
Right.
You graduated from Ashland.
Yes.
You graduated from Ashland College. Spent 6 years there? 7.
I was a total of 7, 5 as a head coach.
5 as the head coach. Then went to Southern Illinois, and in 1981, which I followed Joe down here to the University of South Alabama and played baseball for Coach Stanky on Joe's recommendation to him. And then he was there for 28 years, 25 as the athletic director, 3 as the assistant athletic director. How'd I do?
Did pretty well.
Pretty well?
Bloomville High School.
Bloomville, that's it. Bloomville.
I didn't want to pick up on that.
Okay. All right. One mistake.
Pretty good.
All right, Ben, did you have any questions that you wanted to start off with?
I think I would want to ask about your kind of how you view college athletics now. Obviously, you were involved for a long period of time, and you've seen a lot of changes, especially the last few years with college football. Can you kind of talk about the changes you've seen throughout your tenure at USA and kind of the trends, especially in college football, and kind of how you see the NCAA moving maybe in the next few years as well?
I was one of those guys that really predicted there was going to be a mega conference a number of years ago, and which materialized with the Power Five now. And then you got the Power Five, and then you got the other 6 conferences that are part of the Power Five, but they don't have the they don't have the clout of those 5. What concerns me of intercollegiate athletics right now is what I'm seeing happen in North Carolina just recently. I mean, and I'm out of the mix. I've been out since '09, but I was really bothered by what happened. And I think there's at some point there's going to be a change in the NCAA. And I can go back when I attended NCAA meetings for probably 35 years. And when the NCAA was run by former coaches, Cedric Dempsey, and there was one other one, and I escaped right now the name, but they were former coaches or athletic directors. And then all of a sudden, in the late 80s, the president said, I'm going to take over. The presidents are going to take over. And I think that's been the worst thing that ever happened. And I say that because they do not have any idea about athletics, and especially the guy that's in there now, Mark Emmert. I think it's a major, major mistake with him in there. What he did to Penn State and how they turned around in North Carolina, academic fraud, and it was known there, and yet they penalized Penn State, which did not have one NCAA violation. That was a criminal case. It wasn't an NCAA. So I have a real problem with the NCAA. I think at some point the Power Five will organize, and they will run the NCAA from their organization. I think it probably will be a good thing. Because right now Mark Emmert he's the president, and there's a board that he has, and they're all presidents. No coaches or athletic directors or retired people that can give him input, But anyway, that's the answer.
No, that's a
long
great
answer.
answer. No.
Question.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, Notre Dame is in a conference for everything other than football. How is that?
Being a longtime Notre Dame fan, Brett, I have no reason. I have a real problem with 11 people sitting around the room of the conferences. And Notre Dame's allowed to be an independent. They shouldn't be a seat at the table. They really shouldn't. They should be told, you've got to be part of a conference, or you're not going to participate in the football playoffs. But for whatever reason, Notre Dame gets a pass on that. I don't understand.
Another question?
One quick question, and I wanted to ask you about your son Mark. I'm a big college basketball fan, and I read a recent article about your connection with NC State, playing them in football, and they also played in basketball this past year. Just wanted to talk about Mark, how he's progressed as a coach, and do you follow them pretty closely? Do you attend their games, and what do you think of his success as a coach?
Well, he had success. Was fortunate to be under Jim Herrick at UCLA and had a good learning session there for 7 years, and they won the national title in '95. And then he was a successful coach at Murray State, 3 NCAA tournament bids, and Alabama had a good run, 11 years. Stayed too long. I always tell coaches 7, 8 years max, and you got to move. But anyway, he's at NC State, and they hadn't been in the NCAA tournament, I think, for 7 years, and they were 4 straight. They didn't make it this year. But that's a hard job. And the reason I say it's a hard job, you get Syracuse, you got Louisville, you got Notre Dame is not on par with Syracuse and Louisville, but then you've got Duke and North Carolina, and those teams just reload. So every year you're in that middle trying to get to the top. And last year was the first year, not this season, the season before, that he beat 4 Hall of Fame coaches and beat North Carolina and beat Louisville on the road by double digits, and beat Duke and beat Syracuse at home double digits. It's the first time they say that's ever happened, of beating 4 Hall of Fame guys.
That's great. Yeah.
And he was down this last year because they were limited in the numbers, but they've got the #1 point guard in the country returning. But it's a tough job because of the fact that you're in a neighborhood with Duke and North Carolina. I mean, it's just, and they all draw well, and it's all basketball.
Yeah.
Sarah said we have a question.
One of the main topics of discussion in college athletics is college athletes being paid beyond their scholarships. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's a fallacy on that people don't understand and they don't talk about. But if you got 3 levels. You got people that can afford A, let's say, and the B is a middle income, that the one that gets hurt a lot of times. Then you got the C, the lower income. If you're in the lower income, let's say and I don't know what the cutoff is now, let's say it's $35,000 or less, you receive a Pell Grant, and the Pell Grant is approximately $6,000 a year, and you get that over a 9-month period. So those student athletes are getting paid. You don't have to pay that back. And now there's going to be a compensation plan that's going to be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per year for every student athlete on scholarship. So you take the poorly group, that C group, they're getting $6,000, and they're going to get another $3,000 to $4,000. So they're going to get $9,000 or $10,000 over 9 months period, in addition to room, board, books, and scholarship fees. So you really are, to answer the question, quote, getting paid or getting compensation.
Was there another question or no? Okay, great. I had a question about something that you said. Oh, with Mark, when he was at UCLA, one thing that he was able to do, John Wooden was alive at that time. Well, has Mark ever shared any stories with you about the impact that John Wooden had on his coaching career?
And he really had a major impact. And Jim Herrick was very close to John Wooden, and so Mark became very close also, because they used to go out and take him to breakfast in the morning, and he'd come to the game. Before the game, they had a chance to meet. So Mark has numerous quotes that he's learned from John Wooden. And I had an experience one time going out to a clinic in Los Angeles, and Jim Herrick wanted me to ride to pick up Coach Wooden in the limo. They were picking him up, and he was going to be their featured speaker. So we went in his house, and just a little apartment, not a whole lot bigger than the area that we're sitting in. And Jim Herrick introduced me as Mark's dad, and the first thing he said to me, he said, "How's Brandon and Mary Layson?" That's Mark's 2 older kids. I mean, of all the people that he's run into, you remember they were born in Los Angeles, and so he always kept up with Mark.
Great. You got any other?
Yeah, one more question from me. In your time at South Alabama, what are some of the best moments that kind of stand out as being an athletic director, and kind of your feelings about starting football and kind of the progress they've made over these past few years?
Once I took over that position, and I was 2 years as an assistant there, and I took the head position, and I wanted to make sure we had a total program. And there was a cup that every year they gave. It was called the Vic Loomis Cup for the most championships you win. And during the mid 80s to the early 90s, we won 10 out of 11 championships.
Wow.
And the only reason, and it's never been matched. And the only reason we didn't win it after that, the league started softball, swimming, and football. We didn't have those sports, but I tried to get football in '95. I sat in the president's office and he said, I'm going to put $10 million up in the next 2 weeks. Mike was going to be the head football coach, my brother. 2 weeks later, he called me and said, I've changed my mind. That was '95. So '01, I made another push to get it, and we couldn't get it. And then '07 was one last chance. I did all these research papers and everything. I walked into the president's office. I said, if we don't have football, in 5 years, we could be in this league. We could be taken out of the Sun Belt because it's going to become a football league. And they bought it, and we ended up getting it. And I felt that this could become a Boise State in football because of our location. But I was really pleased with what we did. We won 108 championships in my 26 years as the athletic director. We had 62 times. We had coaches that were Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year. And I think I had a real ability to be able to hire. We hosted 50 Sun Belt Conference championships, from basketball to tennis to golf to whatever. So all in all, it was a great run, and was real pleased. And I think now the next phase in South Alabama is to build a stadium, and I can see that happening probably within the next 5 years.
And you were highly involved in the Mitchell Center as well.
We went around the country looking at buildings and designed it. And I had been in so many buildings. I had been a basketball coach, and it's a beautiful building for a little over 10,000. I really wanted it at 7,000, but because of graduations, the president wanted to do it 10.
Yeah, it's a great arena. I love being there, definitely.
We have another question, Sarah.
Just to piggyback on you first, were you there for the improvements on the baseball field too?
I was through all of that. Not in the last 4 or 5 years, but we redid the stadium. We, built the clubhouse. We batting cage in the back, put suites at the top, built the press box, and that was all when I was during my tenure.
That's nice. Okay, what are your thoughts on the development of the SEC conference in terms of adding schools, football, etc.?
I still think there's going to be one more move. It's going to end up happening, and the SEC could be adding a couple members. I could see the Big Ten perhaps adding a couple, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Big 12 does. But I think the SEC is not completed yet. I think they'll add 2 now. It'll be interesting to see what 2 what they would be, and I think one of them could end up being one of the schools in Carolina. Could be NC State, or it could be North Carolina. The Big Ten, I could see adding North Carolina. Delaney's commissioner is a graduate of UNC. Might be one of the reasons they were able to front the NCAA, because like Mike Slive, the power of Mike Slive is also now Delaney. And then also the commissioner of the ACC, John Swofford, was the athletic director at North Carolina during that tenure. So you can see 2 guys running interference, but that's a long story on that. What happened there? It really troubles me what took place. But.
Well, at the Final Four, the media repeatedly questioned the North Carolina people about that. They just would not let it go. Every day in the press conferences, it kept being brought up.
Players admitted they didn't go to the class and they got grades. How can you pass that by? But they did.
I have one question. I played for Coach Stanky from 81 to 83. I remember the day that he announced his retirement. Did you ever try to talk him out of it?
He was out. I was playing racquetball at the time. The secretary, Shirley Hope, called me and said, Coach Stanky just resigned. I took off my racquetball clothes when he was hitting golf balls in right field. Hit them out to left field.
That was a daily occurrence.
9-iron, he just go out there, and I tried everything I could, but he was adamant. He had a disagreement with the athletic director on some things, and he would not. He was bullheaded too, but he was not ready to retire. That was, but we lost a good one at that time.
Well, see, he told us because right before that, Bear Bryant had died. And, you know, he told us when he addressed us as a team, from what I recall, and maybe some of the folks that were involved in with the team might say different, but I thought that he said he didn't want to be like Bear Bryant and pass away and not be able to enjoy his retirement.
He's not somebody who would want to blame something on someone else for getting proud. That's why he did it that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's a class person.
You got
Two questions.
2 questions. Okay.
What is your take on the upcoming NFL draft and how it affects the area schools?
Oh, I think as usual, we're going to get a lot of, you know, good players drafted from this immediate area or the SEC. You know, we look at ourselves as the SEC area. And I'm hoping that Jacob Coker will be one of them that will get drafted somewhere. I mean, it's hard to believe he wasn't invited to the combine, 6'5", you know, over 200, great arm.
National champ.
National champion in Alabama, and Nick Saban, you know, trying to get him drafted, trying to get him in. For whatever reason, I don't know what their reason is for not, but I'm hoping that he's one of those who get drafted.
Okay, how and when was the Mobile Sports Hall of Fame started?
We just put our 26 class in, so it was 20-some years, 26 years ago. And we've got over 100, I think it's 116. We just inducted 6 here this past week. And it's an unbelievable who's who. I tell people around the country where I live and what I'm involved in. And when I say Satchel Paige and Hank Aaron, I mean, those are 2 that everyone ever been involved in sports. And then when the Miracle Mets in '69, when Tigers won it, my team was the Detroit Tigers. They won it in '68. The Miracle Mets won it in '69. Cleon Jones, Tommy Agee, and Amos Otis manned the outfield, and they were all lived within 2 blocks of each other in Mobile. There was a girl by the name of Dorothy Brumfield White. In 2011, we inducted her. She's in the movie A League of Our Own. If you watch that movie, she is the star in that movie. But at age 14, her dad put her, it was World War II, and men weren't playing baseball, and so the baseball for women started. And at age 14, he put her on a bus in downtown Mobile and sent her to Mexico for the summer to learn how to play.
Wow.
14. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Think of doing that with your daughter.
Yeah.
That would never happen.
Dorothy
Yeah.
Brumfield White. Jake
So-
Peavey's going to be in our Hall of Fame, Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah.
So I think I heard it. There's 5 people in your Hall of Fame that are also in the baseball Hall of Fame.
Hank Aaron, Satchel Paige, Billy Williams, Willie McCovey, and Ozzie Smith. There are only 2 cities in the country, Los Angeles and New York, that have more individuals in the Hall of Fame than Mobile.
Wow.
Alabama.
That's
And we just
Wow.
looked at the picture, the art picture that we have here at the academy that have all the Mobile
Right.
professional baseball players. And like Ben said, we could add some more current ones in
Yeah.
Peavy and
Josh Donaldson.
Donaldson.
And I'm sure there'll be more in the
Oh, yeah,
future.
absolutely.
Does somebody else have a question?
Yeah, one more question.
Okay.
Curtis Horton, who was inducted into the Mobile Sports Hall of Fame, coached Tommy Agee and Cleon Jones in high school at Mobile County Training School. What are your thoughts about great baseball players from this year that may or may not be from here?
Baseball players that will be in we mentioned Jake Peavy and
Mhm.
Josh Donaldson will be 2. Jake Peavy could very well be in the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown at some point. Usually the Cy Young Award winners in a long career that he's had, and Josh Donaldson really just beginning his career. He's just starting, so he's got a lot ahead of him. Went from making 400,000 or 500,000 to 11 million.
So the last thing before we end, you were there 28 years. You've spent a lot of time in Ohio. What do you do with yourself now?
Well, I have a passion to get the Mobile Sports Hall of Fame. We were trying to get the museum. We're trying to raise money to do that, and it's going to be right downtown Mobile in the lobby of the RSA building, and it's the biggest building in the state of Alabama, not only in Mobile. And we want to have billboards out on I-10 and 65 to be able to come and see, and it's free. And it's all digital. Just push a button and Stabler's picture, Kenny Stabler's picture could come up in the Alabama fight song and start playing. Or Auburn, Ed Dias, All-American in the College Football Hall of Fame, push his button and all of a sudden music comes up Auburn. So and have this advertised on I-10 and I-65. It's free. And to see the history of sports in Mobile.
Awesome. Once again, we want to thank Joe for coming over, taking time out of his day to come over here and spend the afternoon or mid-morning with us. And we'll be back again next Wednesday at the same time, 11:30. And next week's guest will be Coach Steve Kittrell, which Joe hired. Did you hire him?
No, actually, I did not hire him.
Okay.
I was there
He
with
was
him for
there.
26 years.
Right. And Coach Kittrell will be in here 3 days before they retire his jersey at the University of South Alabama on Saturday, May the 7th. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the questions.
Watch the draft.
And yeah, watch the draft tomorrow and have a great week in sports. Thank you.